players make others better. I've seen it. Chris Sale, for what he can do on the field between the lines, that's absolutely the majority of this. But who he is as a person, as a teammate, that's going to make Max Fried better. That's going to make Spencer Strider better. That's going to make Ian Anderson better. That's going to make all of our young guys better.
We are going to talk to the president of baseball operations for the Atlanta Braves. Oh, he's ready to go already right now. Let's bring in Alex Anthopoulos right now. First time on the show. Alex, great to have you on, man. And I'm going to say this. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of camp. Congratulations on the extension. The man who hands out the extensions gets one himself. How you doing?
Great. Kratzy deserves all the credit. He stayed on it, man, just like his career. He was relentless. I kept trying to, hand check him, give him the Heisman to come off, and he stayed with it. So I apologize that couldn't come on sooner.
Yeah, no doubt. That's totally fine. I'm going to keep pestering you. Now that I've pestered you once, I'm going to keep pestering you. But your hair is looking tremendous. I mean, I don't know if it's the light. I don't know if it's the time down in the DR, the extension.
I was on a Zoom call and Mike Hazen was on it, and he said, "Your hair and beard are electric."
Electric. I love that.
It's like that. I got to lower it. It's a little high.
No, you do not. Don't change a thing. Do not change a thing.
I thought when
you what?
I'm gonna enjoy it while I still have it.
You're past the point. You're past the point. You're keeping that. It's just turning gray. That's the beauty. I don't have any gray hairs.
Got a lot of white.
I have no gray hairs.
Man, impressive.
Not one. And you know what? We're just gonna go right to it. All right. Because you gave me this. I was not bald until you traded for me. Okay, and then I went bald.
Well, the big regret for me was we had you in the minor leagues in Toronto, and the coaches loved you. Game caller, gamer, we had all these other prospects, and I'm not blowing smoke here, but, it was eye-opening to me. And I look back in the past is that, the guys that are around the players all the time are with them day in and day out, especially at that position. You should listen to them probably more than the others, because they knew what you brought, especially at that position. So it was you left as a minor league free agent, and I'm like, man, that should not happen. This guy's become a productive player. We had him, he was ours. And when we had a chance to get you back, it was a way to right a wrong in my mind,
So let me take you to, and this story I haven't told on this show. Do you remember when you fired me
Yes.
at the end of spring training 2 days before the beginning of the season? Do you remember that conversation in probably the office that was twice as small as the one you're in right now?
It was Gibby and me in the office, right?
Gibby, you, and DeMarlo Hale.
Yes, I didn't remember that DeMarlo was in there. Yes. Yep.
And so basically, AA fired me. He traded for me, and then he sent me to the bushes. They traded for me to pick up, to catch Dickey, to catch the knuckleball. I never actually ended up catching the knuckleball, but he traded for me, and then he sent me to the bushes, and I said, why did you even trade for me? What was the point? So from that point on, how are you a different general manager now, or head of baseball operations, from that point 10 years ago?
Oh, man. It is I even said this, my last year in Toronto, 2015, at the end of the year, every GM has to do their end of season media wrap-up, right? And obviously you're hoping you won the World Series, but normally you don't win the World Series and you have to explain what went wrong and, what you have to fix and what you're going to do in the offseason and all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking about it. I wish I could find a clip of it, my end of season wrap-up. My last one as the Blue Jays GM. I think I felt like I'm finally hitting my stride as a GM. I'm finally starting to get it. Look, that was after my sixth season, right? So 5 years to make playoffs, 6, but it finally clicked to me in terms of makeup, putting a team together rather than just collecting talent, doing it a certain way. It's probably I don't know I'll never know what it's like to have played, but probably like a guy who finds his swing or finds his delivery and ability to throw strikes. And you're like, man, I kind of got it. Not that you're not going to make mistakes, but I felt like I finally made some adjustments. And, a big part of it was just growing pains and failing, a ton of failure. And I'm lucky when I look back, I'm like, man, they really stuck with me. I failed a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, but and again, I'm still going to make some. I still have, but I really felt like it took me those years to get it going. I felt like, man, I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of this thing. So I can go on for hours. And then for me, it would be going back to examples. I can list every year I would have done this differently, that differently. And it wasn't that you're going to make mistakes on signing guys or trading for guys, but just little things that I would have done, communicating, this and that, all that kind of stuff. So, and I haven't changed since. And I'm scared to go back because the other way was we didn't win. And I've kind of stuck with it. I felt that 2015 season, I stuck with it. And I haven't changed from that point. And, so far, still having some success.
Picking up a guy like Chris Sale, man. I played with him with the White Sox for about a year and a half. Awesome guy, awesome individual. We know there's risk involved with him with the injuries and everything else. Talk a little about the process going into picking him up, and what do you think he brings to the table this year for your squad?
Yeah, so like Kratzy was talking about, I think the biggest thing that I've told this story many times before. So 2013 Toronto, tons of hype. Vegas has us winning the World Series, make that monster trade with Miami, get all these guys. And I remember we picked up Henry Blanco and Mark DeRosa, considered two elite clubhouse guys, gamers, all the above, everything you want, right? And at the time, not having played, not having been around clubhouses, I've just figured, okay, it's like having ingredients to a meal, I got to check the box and get a clubhouse guy or two, and I'm good. I got that part of the team set. And, talking to guys like DeRosa that year about makeup and clubhouse and how guys fit together and chemistry, he was telling me all this stuff, and I heard it, but I didn't get it. Now, I didn't realize I didn't get it. I thought I got it, but I didn't get it. So fast forward to 2015, really 2014 offseason, another one of your former teammates, I don't know if he was still, I assume he's still there if Sale was there, Mark Burley. I had a conversation with him. I was like, I'm done. I'm sick of this. Like, I'm not doing it this way anymore. Like, I'm cleaning house. And started making some moves, bring in Martin as a free agent, Donaldson, trade for Marco Estrada, make a bunch of moves. Bring in Travis, second base. I remember him sending me a text. He's like, man, you were not kidding. And I've become, maybe to a fault at times, because I still question myself, is I'm so much about the person now, And I remember like Pat Gillick telling me, and he said it in media interviews as well, and I didn't grow up in Toronto, but I grew up in Canada, and being the Blue Jays GM, you're obviously very aware of Pat Gillick's accomplishments, but he talked about when he started, and he had a scouting background, and I've had a scouting background, so I've always looked at it through a scouting lens, tools, this, that, all the time. And he was 70% talent, 30% makeup, character, and then over time, it was 60-40. And I got to tell you, I feel like I've gone to like 55-45 talent, makeup, character. So on Sale, love the ability. Like, we're not going to engage if we don't think a guy can help us and help us win games and so on. But then you start doing work on the person, on the teammate, on the guy. Man, was it powerful. Like, wow. You want to get him. Awesome teammate, accountable. You watch some of his interviews. No excuses. People say they're great competitors, but sometimes it's talk. I mean, this is as genuine, as authentic a competitor in the little time I've been around him. So I'm a big believer, especially being a parent now. Players make others better. I've seen it. Took a while to see it, but I see it. A coach can only do so much. A manager can only do so much, but peers can really impact. I think about it with my kids. Who they're around is an impact as well. So Chris Sale, for what he can do on the field between the lines, that's absolutely the majority of this. But who he is as a person, as a teammate, that's going to make Max Fried better. That's going to make Spencer Strider better. That's going to make Ian Anderson better. That's going to make all of our young guys better. He's not going to go give speeches or be anybody else other than he is. But you fill a clubhouse, instead of having two guys like a Blanco and a DeRosa, I've kind of flipped that. I'm like, you better have like 24 or 25 and maybe one or two that are on the border of pass-fail, to me.
Can I stand up and just clap like this?
That's music to Kratz's ears.
I loved that long-winded answer because that is 100% what I try to tell kids as I'm coaching them in high school, as the way that I hope people saw me in my career. So I love everything you said there. Now, does all this come into extensions too? Because I think we need a Ronald Acuna extension, because I don't know if you were in the Blue Jays system. I played with his dad when we were in the Blue Jays together, but maybe you weren't there yet. That was like 2005, 2006.
Yeah, I joined. So I joined the Blue Jays as a scouting coordinator December of 2003. And then I got
Okay.
assistant GM job in 2006. But yeah, look, extensions, big part of it. So I could tell you early on in my career, it was just, hey, value. If the value's there, sure, let's do a deal. And again, I believe it doesn't mean I'm right. I don't have a ton of World Series rings. So like, I'm definitely not the authority on this. I'm just my own take and how I want to live my life, I guess, or quality of life. I just, to me, we don't give out no trade clauses and so on. But I do think once you extend a guy, it's understood that hey, they're extending because this is where they want to be, and they've chosen to be here. So we feel like if we extend you, we're ultimately making a commitment that you're going to be here. And I also think if we extend the wrong guy, I'm not saying ability wise, like guy doesn't go about it the right way and so on. You're sending a message to everybody else like this is what we value, and this is cool, and this is acceptable. So, and look, the other part of it is you can't extend 26 guys just from a payroll standpoint. It won't work. But I was less discerning, I guess, early on in my career, and it was more about, hey, this makes sense. It's the right value. Let's do it. And now I'm more specific to the person, the player. And look, that doesn't mean you're going to get them all done, right? I think we have like 26 really good guys right now. So yeah, in theory, you'd want to keep all of them, but it just doesn't work that way. But yeah, I would say that it's I think the betting on the human, betting on the person. At the end of the day, like guys are going to get hurt, guys are going to have bad years. That happens. You really kick yourself if you're like, I knew this guy didn't work hard. I knew he didn't take care of himself. I knew he wasn't a good teammate, and you knew it, and you looked the other way because he was so talented. Those are the ones that you regret. Guy gets hurt, guy doesn't perform. He wants to. That happens. You just have to accept it.
Hey, Alex, I know there was a little bit of an injury scare with Ronald. Seems like he's doing okay. My question's more big picture. I mean, how do you make sure that he is 100% come playoff time? And I guess this goes for everyone, right? But Ronald's such an aggressive ball player. I know you're not going to suddenly be like, hey, let's steal a few less bases just in case. You can't do that when a guy's in his prime, right? You want to say it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's awesome, right? 40 homers, 70 stolen bases. In my job, you worry stolen bases, right? You get a finger, a hand, a wrist, but that's the way he plays. That's who he is. This guy loves baseball. I mean, forget that he's MVP and so on. He adores baseball. You'll see stuff on the internet online in the winter he's playing, whether it's in leagues or in parks. He loves the game, and that's how he plays. That's the energy he plays with and so on, and that's part of the game. Look, like you said, there was a scare, but you're going to have that regardless, right? You get hit by a pitch, you run down to first. You could drive yourself crazy worrying about this kind of stuff. So we trust him. He knows what he has at stake, and we trust him to be smart about it. And we're just glad we were able to dodge a bullet at this point.
I want to ask about Fried a little bit. Has there any been contract extensions about him coming up, about him maybe being a Brave for the rest of his life?
Yeah, so we have in his policy for obvious reasons. We've never gotten into if we've tried to sign guys or whatnot, this and that. I have said this on radio. So there was an article around the winter meetings. Justin Toscano, really good writer at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution newspaper, wrote something about talks. I'm not quoted in there. I didn't talk to him about that. So, but I do think I should give credit where credit is due. He did a nice job doing the work there. I think the short answer without directly giving you an answer is he's really good. Second in Cy Young in 2022. One of the best left-handed starters in the game. We're better with Max Fried. No doubt about it. He likes it here. He wants to stay here. We want to keep him? Sure. We got to find a way to do it where we can still have a good team around him. So the goal is going to be to keep him. The better you are, the harder it is. It goes without saying. And but I do know, like all things being equal, he likes being here. So the goal is, though, we got to keep a competitive team one way or the other. So without me coming out and saying it, there was an article that guy did a pretty good job at the winter meetings talking about last spring, some conversations. But Max knows where we stand. I love the way they asked him the question at our fan fest. I thought, as you'd expect, he's a total pro. Great guy. And look, he's awesome. So we have him for 2024. Hopefully beyond that, no way to be able to say anything more than that.
Well, let me piggyback a little bit off of what I was going to say as well. Like, how comfortable are you talking about contract extensions once the season starts? Are you a guy that says, you know what, doesn't matter what time or place it is, if we can get a guy that we really want, let's go get him while the season starts? You know, some players are, I'm done after spring training, blah, 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 but money does talk, as you know.
Yeah. Look, so I think that's a player-specific thing. I don't have to go out there and play, right? I don't have to. I get to watch in a radio booth or suite or whatever it is. So if I think, because we have a good team, we have a chance to get to the postseason and so on, if I think that it's going to affect their performance on the field, I don't care what the contract is. Like, we're not going to sink our chances in the current season to have any conversations. But I think that's up to the player, right? If the player or his representation feels like, hey, this is not good, person's not going to be in a good space, it's going to affect their performance, we won't do it. So I'll let the agent or the player just decide those things. Some guys, like you said, are totally fine. Hey, I'm good. It's not going to affect my performance on the field. We've had conversations in season. Sometimes the All-Star break's kind of that little pause period where you have, 3-4 days. You can have some conversations there. So, and like you said, some guys are like, hey, I want a deadline opening day. And then from there, I just want to worry about playing. And that's fine too. So to me, it's a player's choice. We're going to respect what they want to do. But I've kind of seen it all. I've seen guys go all directions on that kind of stuff.
Winter ball, you mentioned it with Acuna. How nervous were you when he called you? I'm sure it wasn't just oh yeah, that's cool, bro. Like, I know you played last year and you won MVP. How nervous does that make you? And do you as an organization set limits on that? And how is that handled by you?
Right. So I remember, it must have been 2 or 3 years ago, he FaceTimed me. I think he'd just coming off the knee, begging to play, like, please, I want to play, and because he loves playing it. And look, and I get it, right? His family doesn't get to see him play all the time and so on. But he was coming off an ACL. And so that was one where I'm going to the trainers and the doctors. And if they're concerned, we're not going to do it. And ultimately, if he was further removed, it would be fine. I will say this, generally speaking, position player wise, I'm for it. I think it's a good thing. And part of it is, I remember I was an assistant GM at the time. We had Marco Scudero in Toronto. He played in the winter all the time. And he was a really good player for us. And look, if you pitch and you want to go throw there, I'm definitely more apprehensive there. For position players, I'm all for it now with Ronald. So we actually, surprisingly, he played last year, went to the Classic, had the best year of his career. I'm like, it worked. I'm not going to overthink this thing. So you just had the best year of your career. You played winter ball. You got off to a great start. You played in the Classic. Go ahead. He knows what he has at stake. I'm fine with it. Now, at some point, we get to the end. They're playing in the Caribbean Series and so on. And that was like a week away from camp. It's like, okay, you probably got enough work in. You got to get ready for spring training, and we'll kind of shut it down there. But for position players, I think it's a good thing. I think it happened way back when, a lot more than it does now. Guys wanted to make some money back then as well. If you pitch, that I'm not as big a fan of.
Alex, question for you on off-season philosophy, because especially the last few off-seasons, you get a lot of work done early. You set very specific goals. It seems like you target specific players, not specific numbers, if that makes sense. It's a fact. I know enough front office people that some of them will plug in numbers and say this player is pretty much equal to this player. It seems like that is not your approach, and an approach by a few other GMs that seem to be thriving. Do you feel like that's the case, where you sit down in a meeting and you differentiate players and you don't put them in the same realm of, say, a WAR number or whatever the proprietary number is that you guys have? Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. So look, yeah, you can sit there and analytically say, okay, you've got X player for, young guy for 6 years, and 3 of those years are, assuming they're up, they're going to make the minimum or somewhere in that range, and then ultimately go through arbitration and so on. And you could, try to calculate it and put values and so on. This is, again, speaking for myself. Not everyone's going to get 6 years of service and 5 years of service in order to be healthy or all this. So you can project what the potential upside is and the value and so on. But look, I think you're right. I think generally speaking, you're going to have needs every offseason. You need a utility guy. But we do try to make it player specific, right? So, let's say you have a need and the players available just aren't that good. You're going to go commit yourself to 4 years or 5 years, whether it's trading for someone with a long contract or signing someone. If that's not the player you want, next offseason, now you're jammed up and you've locked in that position. So I think we're so particular about who we bring in, the person. We do so much work on the makeup and what we think will fit in. And I think that's the biggest key to this is just who's going to be the best fit for this group and this city and this staff. And, just like, and that doesn't mean they're going to be the best fit in some other place. So it kind of makes it easier to go about it, right? You just kind of, your pool of players becomes a little smaller. You really pay attention and do the work on those guys. And you ultimately try to get them done. And you don't always get them done. You can't always trade for them. You can't always sign them. But you don't get caught up in this guy's a really good player. Well, if you know they're not a good fit or they're not going to go with, they're not going to mesh with your hitting coaches or your bullpen coach or your manager and so on. I have to be mindful in my job and that it's easy. I'm not just dumping a bunch of guys on our staff, whether that's the clubhouse staff, the trainers, the coaches, and I don't have to live with them day in and day out, right? I want my boss, our control person is Terry McGurk. I wouldn't want him handing me a bunch of employees and being, all right, here's your AGM, here's your this, here's your that. So I think it's important that we take it all into consideration because, again, it's not collecting talent. It's building a team and how the pieces fit. And that took me a long time to grasp, and I'm not saying it can't be done another way. I tried doing it the other way. It didn't work for me. So that's my view on it.
What a great transition by you. For me, from that to my question, what did you see? You all the things that you said, now I'm going to plug in the name Jared Kelenic. What did you see in Jared Kelenic that made you make that move? And what do you foresee from him for this team?
Yeah, look, he's obviously hasn't had the success that was projected of him, expected of him, and so on. So obviously, if he was an all-star right now, you have no chance of getting him, right? So you got to take shots. We have a lot of position players locked up, guys that are established, all-stars, and so on. We've had a revolving door in left field, and we've had good players there, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, and so on, really good players, good clubhouse guys, so on. But this was an opportunity to get a young guy who's got a chance to be here for a while, left-handed bat that we wanted to have, that can balance out the lineup, who's a plus defender. He can throw, he can run, he can fill in center field. And he's got big offensive upside. He's got big power and so on. And we felt like this would be a good spot for him because he's not coming in as the guy. He doesn't have to carry the load. He can hit at the bottom of the lineup, go play good defense. Whatever we get offensively from you will be great. It'll be all upside. And obviously the ceiling is huge. But he fits the roster, the balance that we're trying to have. And it felt like, hey, look, obviously there's risk like all of these things, but if it clicks, he could be a core player for us.
Yeah, and we had him on about a month ago, and I mean, he's got that natural chip on his shoulder. Like he still has so much left to prove, which is always a great thing, and he's pumped to join this team. So we're excited about it. Alex, great to have you on here. Yes, Kratz, you want to finish?
Yeah, I have one more. You said about acquiring talent. So, and I need you to tell me right now, did you trade for me because you were acquiring talent, or was it because you thought I was really, really good person?
Ooh, you got the bell in there too. Nice work. So you the makeup was a plus because everyone raved about you in the minor leagues, right? All the coaches, they were like, we had a lot of depth back then too. So that was definitely part of it. You were successful too. You were a major league player. And with good makeup and at a really important position to have good makeup. So,
and I had an option. And that's what.
I don't remember those things, but you certainly do. But
that's what kicked me in the crotch.
You're getting fired. But it's something that maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's all part of the experience, right? It's all part of the journey and learning and look, from the decision with you to a bunch of other decisions, like I look back and I'm like, man, I would change so much, right? You just can't. But as long as you take something from it, and learn from it, then it's time well spent and you got something out of it. So I kind of obsess about. I look back a lot. I'm not into the. It's just baseball. It happens. I think you can pull something out of anything. So, yeah, it's one of those things that whatever 10 years later or whatever it is, I'm still sitting here, which is a shock to me as well.
You know what I pulled out of it?
What?
Two huge rings. So I appreciate that. One American League Championship, one World Series ring. So
beautiful. It worked out for all sides.
Yes,
it did. And he said, you know what? That guy's going to be a good broadcaster one day, a good host on a digital show. So there you go. And Alex, as you know, you're a great interview, man. I appreciate, the transparency always. And thanks for hopping on with us. Good luck this season, dude. We'll try and catch you at some point. All right.
All right, guys. See ya.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.